In January 2023, Russian forces shattered at the calm of the once quiet Ukrainian town of Soledar, breaching its fortified defenses to seize a seemingly inconspicuous salt mine. As the smoke of battle cleared, the magnitude of the importance of Soledar came sharply into focus. The area held a secret, an immense Soviet-era weapons depot concealed deep below the earth. In a series of videos published in May 2023, men from the Russian private military company Wagner confirmed the private military company was now in control of this arsenal. Going down the mine's elevator and touring the area, even Wagner's late leader himself, Yevgeny Prigozhin, showed rows upon rows of vintage weaponry. In his words, the weapons inside the salt mine arsenal are enough to arm 1 million people. But the videos only scratch the surface. What comes next for this underground cache remains to be seen. Soledar, derived from the words for salt and gift, is a small city in Ukraine. In the famously industrial Donbas region, Soledar lies 11 miles from Bakhmut and is a highly important salt mining location, providing the nation with 95% of the salt supplied, managed by state enterprise Artemisila. Since the late 19th century, when mining began, the area has produced over 280 million tons of salt. Some of the vast galleries the mining activity has left have been converted into a connected underground city. Accessible to tourists and locals in the 2000s, this underground world included a concert hall, a soccer field, a church, a bar, and a spa. However, one particular cavern is home to a much darker secret. At the end of an unassuming road outside of Bakhmut is the village of Paraskovievka. There lies a salt mine, initially established in 1869, that sometime in the mid-20th century, the Soviet Union turned into the ultimate weapons storage location. For years, as mining continued further beneath in the Paraskovievka village, the more salt removed, the more room there was for weapon storage. Located nearly 500 feet below the surface and accessible only by elevator, the cavern's environment, with low temperature and humidity, was well suited to long-term arms storage. According to rumors, the small arms contained in the area date as far back as World War I. There are also World War II weapons from the Soviet Red Army, guns captured from German forces, and even arms from the United States Army under the 1941 Lend-Lease Agreement. Until 1991, the Soviets also gathered an ample supply of AK-pattern rifles of different models. The caretakers of this secluded arsenal carefully separated arms by era and type, stuffing them into crates and then stacking them strategically. While the exact number of arms stored within is unknown, in 2002, Alexei Melnik, a defense analyst at the Razumkov Center, estimated that it held about 3.5 million firearms at its peak. When the Soviet Union dissolved in 1991, as soldiers began leaving their posts and going back home, the newly formed nation of Ukraine found itself now the owner of the remote establishment. In 2014, during the annexation of Crimea, one of the guards who worked the salt mine arsenal ominously stated, quote, "If anyone got in there, they could arm everyone in Ukraine. There are rifles, machine guns, heavy weapons, and millions of rounds of ammunition." Amidst the renewed conflict sparked by Russia's formal invasion of Ukraine in February 2022, numerous local soldiers were observed wielding AK-type weapons. Some of these could potentially have originated from the vast network of tunnels in the Paraskovievka salt mine arsenal. But still, its existence remained a myth, more a legend than an actual fact. Until December 2022, following the capture of a nearby town on December 27th, Russian forces, spearheaded by Wagner fighters led by Yevgeny Prigozhin, began storming Soledar from the south and east. Emerging from a Soviet-era prison, Prigozhin navigated through a web of enterprises until he found himself linked to Vladimir Putin in the 2000s. Known as Putin's chef or his butcher, depending on who you ask, his businesses became integral to Kremlin operations. However, in 2014, Prigozhin conveniently established the Wagner Group. This private military company has since become entangled with the war in Ukraine and other conflicts in the Middle East. War analysts have described the Soledar battle with the Wagner Group as a flanking fight amid freezing temperatures and frozen ground, reminiscent of a brutal World War I encounter. By January 2023, the last 500 civilians, mostly elderly, began fleeing Soledar. On the 10th, the British Ministry of Defense stated that Russia's priority was to control the tunnels leading into the Soledar salt mine. By December 13th, Wagner leader Prigozhin claimed that Soledar had fallen, boldly stating that the fighting there was waged exclusively by his men. He also took this opportunity to complain about the Russian army's infighting, corruption, and bureaucracy. That same day, Russia's official defense ministry confirmed the capture of Soledar, claiming to have made the first big battlefield gain after half a year of military setbacks. However, the ministry credited the town's seizure to Russian troops and aircraft, without mentioning the role of the Wagner Group. A couple days later, the agency issued a second statement, rectifying the situation, quote, "This combat task was successfully accomplished by the courageous and selfless actions of volunteers from the Wagner assault detachments." Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky mocked the statement as a clear sign of failure and infighting within the enemy. The nation did not officially confirm the fall of Soledar until January 25th, when Ukrainian authorities stated their troops retreated from the frontline settlement. While Russia reported the capture of Soledar early in 2023, it wasn't until May that the elusive weapons depot was secured. That month, the depot was the focal point in a flurry of videos filmed by Wagner soldiers. According to Prigozhin, the group counted over 272,000 boxes with weapons, most of which contained Thompson submachine guns, Soviet PPSH-41 and PPS-43 SMGs, Maxim machine guns, and Degtyarev light machine guns. Most of these still retain the grease they were initially preserved with. The private military company head stressed that no artillery shells were found in the caves, only cartridges for small arms. In another video, posted by RIA Novosti Russian news agency's contributor Alexander Simonov, the reporter descends the nearly 500 feet in the elevator and tours around the impressive facilities spanning 3 miles, with 28 galleries and even a repair facility. However, the reporter also made it clear that the depot seems to have been stripped of the most useful and modern material. It is likely that before leaving Soledar, Ukraine's retreating armed forces took the most modern equipment with them and attempted to mine the depot's entrance so that they would not fall into the hands of the Russians, but failed to complete the operation. The explosion would have been enormous had it gone successfully, as the Wagner men found 4.5 tons of TNT and plastic explosives. Additionally, there were booby traps placed in various parts of the warehouse. Since May 2023, no further news about the secret weapons facility has been left to the Russians and the Wagner Group. Capturing Soledar's mines, amongst the largest in all of Europe, could serve a financial purpose for Russia. For over a year, the United States has publicly alleged that Wagner Group mercenaries have tapped into natural resources in nations like the Central African Republic, Mali, and Sudan to finance Moscow's conflict in Ukraine. However, it is improbable that the current conflict conditions would allow salt mining to restart. Only months after the Battle of Soledar, Wagner's leader, Prigozhin, following many outspoken and bold criticisms about the Russian military, was involved in a fatal aircraft crash that did not surprise many. It's still uncertain whether Russia will use any weapons stored in the mine, and exactly what's inside.